Have you ever felt awkward on stage, like you don't know where to look or what to do with your hands? In this video, you will learn about a whole other approach to singing that will make you seem naturally at home on stage while simultaneously improving your vocal technique. Hi everyone, I'm Cornelius of Voice Studio East. In my early years of trying to learn singing, I was taking classes at a local music school where it was common for students to give recitals during events hosted by the school on a regular basis. At these recitals, students would get up on stage one at a time to perform a song they had been working on. While waiting for my turn, I would marvel at the stage presence some of the other students had, how they seemed to be really in the zone and seemed to always know what to do with their hands when singing. I was quite an anxious teenager in those days, so I would practically go to pieces worrying about whether I'd be able to make my performance as compelling and rich with stage presence as some of the other students, or whether I would be awkward and robotic on stage. It was usually this latter, in no small part because I was so self-conscious, which made my movements even more stiff and awkward than they would have otherwise been. As I progressed in my singing journey, developed more advanced technique, and consequently explored more difficult songs, I would largely stop obsessing over stage presence, not because I had become any less neurotic, but because other equally anxious thoughts occupied my frantic mind. Would I be able to hit the high notes, or would I crack? Would I mess up the melody? Would I forget the lyrics? And so on. And indeed, all of these things have happened to me at least once during a public performance. To tell you the truth, this was partly because my technique was a complete mess, but what I could never have anticipated back then was that the key I needed to clean up my technique would also be the key to developing much better stage presence. That key was simplicity. One might even call it sincerity. A kind of unity of motion and attitude, of body and mind that ensured different parts of my technique were no longer in conflict, no longer fighting each other, but now adding to each other to produce a whole that was greater than the sum of its parts. Once I understood this principle and incorporated it into all my singing, my performances acquired a natural and instinctual character that captivated the audiences and started winning me compliments on the raw emotionality of my singing. But most valuable of all, it allowed me to finally conquer that fear of being awkward on stage, allowed me to always know what to do with my hands when singing. Imagine you are a professional operatic tenor, and you are performing the role of Caliph in Turandot. It is the third act, and you are nearing the end of the famous aria Nessun Dorma. It has gone well so far, but the final high note is coming up, and you are feeling a bit out of it because you have a cold and your energy levels are not what they should be. So you take up an anxious, guarded posture with your head tilted downwards and your shoulders rising halfway to your ears. Well, that was a bad move, you realize, 1 second after it is too late. You have butchered the start of the note, and while you are skilled enough to recover and fix it during the sustain, it ruined the drama of the moment. Obviously, this is a contrived example, and a professional operatic tenor is spectacularly unlikely to actually do this, but it illustrates the point quite nicely. What you are doing with your body should always match what you are trying to do with your voice. Singing a big dramatic high note with resonant clarity while looking like you want to run away and hide is a psychological impossibility. It cannot be done. So here is the principle I want you to learn. If you want to sing a broad, open-sounding high note, you need a broad, open posture with a raised head. If you want a nimble, narrow sound, which does not necessarily mean weak, it helps to use a nimble, narrow posture. If you want a tragic, faltering sound, it helps to let your posture literally falter. Above all, do not think to leave acting or stage presence as something to add on top of your singing after having built up your vocal technique around a neutral affect. On the contrary, dramatic emotion should be the very cornerstone of your technique. All singing essentially is a very particular type of acting. This is as true of upbeat boy band singing as it is of opera or musical theater. When many voice teachers argue that your vocal technique should serve as a firm foundation that allows you to add emotion and expressiveness on top, they've got it exactly backwards. If you're a singer, you are a type of actor, so acting should not be left as a mere afterthought when you are training your voice. Even when you are just practicing scales and vocal exercises, your voice should already be full of life. But how does one learn this? Quite simply, by building up to it gradually, all in lockstep with your work on vocal technique. Just as you would not start out with the biggest songs right off the bat, you should not start out with the grandest emotions right off the bat either. In the beginning, the easiest emotions to develop are warmth, excitement, and tenderness, and songs befitting of these emotions also tend to be among the easier songs to sing. I want to stress that you should add a lot more emotion than you might intuitively think necessary. If, for example, you are singing a tender love song, it is not enough to just add the hint of a smile to your singing. You must add a radiant, laughing joy, stretch out your arms in an embracing motion here and there, even see if you can make yourself tear up a bit with love as you sing. So how should we move when singing? We should move with lots of emotion in a manner that matches a song. This may seem like a cop-out answer, but the truth is that songs are very varied in both the vocal technique and the emotional expression they call for, so there truly is no one right answer here. But just being highly attentive to this side of singing and understanding that emotion should be the basis for your vocal technique and not the other way around is already more than enough to get you started. And yet, we can still make at least some observations about general principles of how to move when singing. Firstly, if you want your singing to be confident and rich sounding, you need to take up some space. Do not keep your arms too close to your body. This will shut your voice down. And do not be afraid to raise your hands to the level of your head when the drama really builds up. Watch your elbows. If you tuck your elbows inwards, your voice will immediately become restrained and anxious, or tense sounding in some other manner. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it has to be right for the song. It would not fit with a warm, loving serenade, for example. But the process of applying this principle may lead you to some other pitfalls. By focusing excessively on your posture and arm gestures, your attention will turn inwards, and all the acting and emotion might go out of your mind entirely. This could make you tense up and establish a pose rigidly with way too much isometric muscle tension. This is not to say that your energy levels should be low. It is possible to move energetically without being stiff and tense. Nor does it mean you should make all your movements deliberately flowy and controlled. Loose, explosive movements too are an important part of singing and tend to go hand in hand with clean onsets. The point is neither to be overly relaxed nor affectedly graceful, but to keep your movements loose, natural, and believable, albeit somewhat exaggerated for the stage. A second pitfall is that you might wind up glancing too much at your own movements, or at any rate acquire a sort of dazed, inwards-looking expression, when you should be singing outwards toward the audience. This is quite easily fixed, because it is literally just a matter of your gaze. If you want a confident sound full of determination, you must keep your glance very focused and directed forwards. If you are singing a warm love song, you can let your eyes unfocus a little and look less far off into the distance, but you must still be looking outwards in some sense in order to remain accessible to the audience. So, in short, see if you can approach all vocal technique as a type of acting, and understand acting itself largely through a lens of constant movement, whether it be a broad gesture like throwing your arms out with a joy eager to swallow the world, or a more subtle gesture, perhaps just a sudden glance. If you want to learn more about acting, you will definitely want to check out this video, where I explain why actors today are, for the most part, not quite as lively as actors of the past. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.